Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Gopi Jana His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23, text number 5. Kandamola falahara. Sorry, wrong verse. 6. Grishme pancha tapaviro.
Grishme panchatapaviro.
Varshas asara shanmunihi. Akanta magna shishire.
Akanta magna shishire.
Udake standile shayaha.
Udake standile saya.
Grishme pancha tapaviro.
Grishme panchatapaviro.
Varshas asara sanmunihi. Varshasvasara sanmunihi. Akanta magna shishire.
Akanta magna shishire.
Udake standile shayaha.
Udake standile saya.
Grishme pancha tapaviro.
Grishme panchatapaviro.
Varshas asara shanmunihi.
Varshasasasani.
Akanta magna shishire.
Akanta magna shishire.
Udake standali shayaha.
Udate standile saya.
Grishme panchatapaviro.
Grishme panchatapaviro.
Varshasvasara shamuni.
Varshasvasara shanmunihi.
Akanta magna shishire.
Akanta magna shishire.
Udake standile shaya.
Udake standile shayaha.
Grishme panchatapaviro.
Grishme pancha tapaviro.
Varshasvasaram munihi.
Varshasvasara shanmunihi.
Akanta magna shishire.
Akanta magna shishire.
Udake standile saya.
Udake standile shayaha. Mataji.
Grishme panchatapaviro.
Grishme pancha tapaviro.
Varsasvasara samuni.
Varshasvasara shanmunihi.
Akanta magna shishire.
Akanta magna shishire.
Udake standile saya.
Udake standile shayaha. So those who were in yesterday's class, now comes the big test. What means Akanta? Who was in yesterday's class? Please raise your hand. What means Akanta? Krishna Prem explained.
Alltså Kanta means allt. Akanta, I don't know.
No, you don't remember. explain. Prabhupada said you should accept.
Of the prasadam that we should.
It should. We should accept prasadam up to the neck.
Oh,
Why not? In the beginning. Okay, word for word translation. Grishme. In the summer season. Panchatapaha. 5 kinds of heating. Viraha. The hero. Varshasu. In the rainy season. Asarasha. Being situated within the torrents of rain. Munihi. Like the great sages. Akantaha. Actually, Akanta. Up to the neck. Magnaha. Drowned. Shishire. In winter. Udake. Within water. Standile Shayaha. Lying down on the floor. Translation of the Srila Prabhupada. Following in the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great sages and munis, Prithu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of heating processes during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. Purport. These are some of the austerities executed by the Jnanis and Yogis who cannot accept the process of Bhakti Yoga. They must undergo such severe types of austerity in order to become purified from material contamination. Panchatapaha refers to 5 kinds of heating processes. One is enjoined to sit within a circle of fire with flames blazing from 4 sides and the sun blazing directly overhead. This is one kind of Panchatapaha recommended for austerity. Similarly, in the rainy season one is enjoined to expose himself to torrents of rain, and in winter to sit in cold water up to the neck. As far as bedding is concerned, the ascetic should be content with simply lying on the floor. The purpose for undergoing such severe austerities is to become a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, as explained in the next verse. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Grishme Panchatapaviro Vashvas Asara Shanmunihi Akanta Magna Shishire Udake Standile Shayaha. Following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great sages and munis, Prithu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of heating processes during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. Hare Krishna. So, Krishna Prabhu, there was a misunderstanding. He was supposed to give a class, so I jump in. So we continue hearing about Prithu Maharaj and how he is performing austerities in the forest as a vanaprastha. And Prabhupada, he explains in purport that these kind of austerities, they are meant for jnanis and yogis. And why? Because the jnanis and the yogis, they cannot accept the process of bhakti yoga. Which means the process of bhakti yoga is different than what we hear here in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas never asked us to go into the forest and perform these kind of austerities. We heard about that in other places in the scriptures, that they go in, when they perform austerities, then they will make fire around them in the summer season, and in the winter they will go into the cool water up to the neck and then stay like this for some time and meditate. And usually you would do exactly the opposite. When it's hot, then what do people do? They go to the lake, to the cool water, to cool themselves down, or to the river or the swimming pool, or take a shower. And in winter one would make a fire, or in the modern context we would switch on the heating system, which we just renovated the other day. But tapasvis, those who perform tapasya, they take these very extreme circumstances of heat, for example in summer, and they make it even more extreme. They make fire around them, and they even sit in a place where the sun shines. So, and then in the winter they go to the cold water. I think that's the one where we have some experience with. Some time ago we used to we started to go, and then we used to do it regularly, inspired by His Holiness Wim Hof. You know Wim Hof?
Yeah, Dutchman. Yeah.
He's Dutch. Yeah. So Wim Hof is a person who is advocating that one should go to the cold water. The colder the better, and the longer you stay the better. And it will make you healthy physically and also mentally. Yeah. So I was thinking, we have this practical realization when we go to the cold water, it does something with you in the winter. It does something to you also in the summer, but in the winter, it's quite powerful experience. But what happens? Why is it so powerful?
Because you have to control your senses.
Yes. Basically, that's the tapasya means you have to control your senses. And then when you control your senses, what happens?
You kind of focus more inward, brings you into the moment. So now you don't think about all the stuff, otherwise your mind gets calm.
One thing that, and it's very actually, I didn't plan to speak about it, but to make it really nicely, you can understand it if you did it, because tapa means heat. Tapa means heat. So for example, when we go swimming, and what happens by taking this austerity, it will create more heat in the body, no? But that is and what is heat? Heat, it means energy. Energy and heat is basically the same thing. I think even in physics, energy, where does all the energy come from?
Krishna.
Yes. And then in this material universe?
From the sun.
From the sun. The sun is the source of all energy, and it's the source of all heat. And the sun, by shining, it will invest its energy into different things. It will invest its energy into wood, for example. It also invests its energy into vegetables. When we eat vegetables, grains, it creates heat. Why? Because the sun has invested heat in it. And this heat will create energy in our body. So the tendency is that energy, I'm going into this more Sankhya direction, but it might be a little interesting. Heat, the tendency of energy and heat is that it will spread, and it also in a way kind of it's concentrated, but then the tendency is to diffuse. I think that's the right word. Like if you have, let's say I have a cup of hot water, right? It will not stay concentrated warm, the heat will go out naturally. That's also in the body. The heat emanates, goes out, and that's why we have to constantly eat. To make some fire, and some who have a more vata constitution, they will see if they don't eat regularly, the body will get cold. I have often cold hands when I don't eat. I think Vrindavan, who you also have this experience when you have not so much substance in the body. So that is the very scientific understanding of energy, heat, and tapa means you basically consciously try to preserve that energy, that heat, and by doing this you become powerful. So anyone who wants to achieve something knows that we have to perform austerities. Now we spoke about jnanis and yogis, but we can even speak of the karmis, or even the vikarmis in a way, of course. But we know the sportmen, they will do certain things in order to improve their energy level. And they even know, you shouldn't have sex life before your championship, or before having a competition, because this is also a way how you lose energy. We know from Srimad Bhagavatam, Hiranyakashipu, he was performing severe austerities, so severe that heat, I think it is described that even fire came from his head. So why? Because tapa, that's what happens, you become so powerful and hot that the whole universe became hot, and it was unbearable for the inhabitants. Then of course the question comes, what are you going to do with that heat, with that energy? And that depends on if you're a karmi, a jnani, or a yogi, or a bhakta. So a karmi, he will perform austerities and increase his energy level, his heat, and then eventually he will use it for sense gratification, either gross or subtle. So Hiranyakashipu used it to control the universe, and in this way he was able to enjoy on the material platform. And here we hear about the Gyanis and Yogis. So it is basically said that Prithu Maharaj, we know that he's a bhakti yogi, but because at that time that was the system, he would perform the traditional way of austerity, and that is more kind of a yogi approach. So we have three kinds of spiritual people: the Gyanis, the Yogis, and the Bhaktas. And what is the difference between the three?
The degree to which they want to enjoy. They have selfish desires.
They reach different goals.
Right, yeah. They aim for a different goal. In Bhagavatam there is a verse which says Brahma Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shaktyate, that the supreme truth is realized in three aspects: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Meaning Brahman is the spiritual effulgence of God, Paramatma is his localized aspect, meaning he's expanding himself into every atom and every heart in this material universe. And then the Bhagavan means Krishna, the Supreme Lord himself. And so the Gyanis and the Gyani, he is aspiring for Brahman. The Yogi, he is aspiring for Paramatma realization, and the Bhakta for Bhagavan. This is basically how they correspond. And so the Gyanis, how do they realize Brahman? Knowledge. Yeah. Gyanis. In order to become a Gyani, you need Gyan. And by Gyan, what will you realize? Brahma and Brahma Bhuta Prasanati Nashojati Nakanshati. That they will not see any duality anymore. Why? Because they see now that is another interesting aspect. By performing austerities, we said the energy and heat increases in the body. Now, in order to see, what do we need? Sunlight from outside and from inside. We need heat. Actually, eye problems, if you don't see properly, it's some problem with the fire element. It's quite interesting, think about it. To see, externally we need the sunlight, but internally we need the fire element. So if the fire element increases, not necessarily increases, but the fire element has to become stronger, and also it has to, of course, be
Directed.
Yeah, kind of, because it doesn't mean if you have a lot of heat in the body you will see better. Maybe you will see worse, but if it is directed in a proper way, then your vision will increase. So in Jyotish, one devotee astrologer once said, if you want to see, if you want to be an astrologer, because an astrologer has to see. Jyotish, it's the eyes of the Vedas. Literally, if you become an astrologer, you will see the universe in a different way. So then he said you have to worship Lord Nishingadev, because Nishingadev is the Vishnu avatar of the heat. He's so hot. So then he even said, one who worships Nishingadev sooner or later will become interested in Jyotish because his fire element increases and he will have the desire to see properly. So that's what the Gyanis do. They try to collect Gyan and at the same time they perform some austerities, and in this way they will see that actually all is Brahman. There is no need for me to be attracted to this and averse to this because ultimately it's all one. And the yogis, what they do, they try to do, they try to they not look outside so much anymore, but they look inside. And this is also a vision you have to develop. The yogis, they develop this inner vision, the vision of the heart, and then it is described, a yogi who is successful, he will be able to see the super soul. It's always, for me, it's like, wow, hard to explain, but literally they see the super soul next to them. And in Bhagavatam it's even described what's the size of the super soul. A thumb. So it also has to do, that's why they perform austerities, to direct their energy inwards and the vision and then see. And the Bhakti yogis, they try to see Bhagavan, Krishna, means the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is not a mechanical process. That's the main difference between the other two. It is not mechanical. It is based on devotional service, meaning you have to please the Lord and then He will reveal Himself. So that is the three kinds of spiritualists who perform austerities in order to reach their goal. Now I want to speak about one last point, that when Prabhupada speaks about austerity, he uses one interesting word. He says voluntarily. That is a very important point because you could say some time ago we had some homeless woman always in front of the house, and you could say, wow, she's a great tapasvi. She lives outside in the wood, on the bench, on the hard floor. She only eats little. She's a hard, but actually, according to the explanation, she's not performing tapasya because she's probably not voluntarily doing it. She thinks she's doing it voluntarily, but it's her karma. But the definition of tapasya, Prabhupada says, tapa means penance, voluntarily accepting very rigid principles of life. And then interesting, he says, charity means voluntarily giving away. So it always has to be charity, sacrifice, tapasya always have to be voluntarily. Means you have to make a conscious decision that I want to do this. And then Prabhupada also says, here again same thing. Tapasya means voluntarily accepting some rules and regulation to purify myself. So I was looking for one quote of Prabhupada where he says to voluntarily accept some suffering, right? Something like this. That is the meaning of tapasya. And we also perform tapasya. What is our tapasya?
To get up early.
To get up early, yes.
To eat only prasad.
Only
Yes.
after the night. To go.
Only. So get up in the morning, right? To eat prasadam. Of course, when you stand in front of the prasadam buffet, then it's maybe. But if you go outside and you're hungry and you see some sandwich in the kiosk and you feel, oh, I would like to eat that, and then you say, no, I will only accept prasadam. That's the austerity.
And if you are Grihastha, it's a Grihastha.
Right,
Because there are so many situations you are not at home and can cook and offer it yourself.
Yes. Simon, you wanted to say?
Yeah, to join the yoga class.
To go to the yoga class. Okay.
instead of prasad.
Instead of prasad.
Yes.
It's actually
It depends why you want to do yoga. If you want to do yoga to become more healthy so you can do more service, then it's an austerity. Ekadashi is an austerity. Fasting on Jamastami, fasting days. Japa, yeah.
basically all the four, or like the vows we take.
The vows we take. Even Krishna says, in Tapa and Japa. Just I'm the Japa Tapa. Means that's the austerity. So that's also some important thing we should always remember, that Japa is a tapasya. It's, at one point it will become very nice and we will not fall asleep anymore. But in our stage we always have to sit down and remember, now I'm performing austerity. So then when the mind comes and says, oh, I want to go out, the mind tricks us. Oh, let me just go to see how warm is it outside. Then you go outside and then, oh, I forgot to check my phone in the room. And you go upstairs and all of a sudden, oh, I feel tired. Maybe, actually, what's the use of chanting when I'm tired? Maybe better to take a nap. And then we find ourselves waking up after 1 hour. We didn't chant our rounds and we became tricked by our mind. So we have to always remember, japa is austerity. And I think whoever does it in that mood and pushes, no, I will not stop, I will continue. I do it for Krishna. Krishna always rewards at some point. Even if it's only for 2 Mahamantras. But he will reward for sure. So yeah, this voluntarily accepting something. And we are not following Prithu Maharaj, and we have our own, like Luca said, Prabhupada gave us the 4 regulative principles, that is our tapasya. Now, I was thinking often, what is the biggest tapasya for us in this time and age? I was reflecting about this, and I was reflecting about this. I put it into connection with what Prabhupada said in the very last days. He said, your love will be shown by how you cooperate with each other. And if you think about this statement, it's very, very deep.
Yes.
It is a very deep statement, because Prabhupada says in one sentence, how are you going to show him that you actually love him? And he says, when you cooperate. So, how can you show to someone that you love him? By doing something which is not so easy. It's by taking some trouble. Then the person will feel, wow.
Yeah, and you have to give up your false ego.
Yeah, I want to speak about this, why it is the biggest tapasya in this time and age. And Krishna, he says, I cannot repay the debt of the gopis, because what they did for me is really, it's very difficult, and what's the word? It's very daring, very daring. They risked something. What did they do? They left their home in the middle of the night, and they just forgot all their responsibilities just to be with Krishna. And that is a very big step in the Vedic society. Usually such women, they will be ostracized. they will not be allowed to come back. So can you imagine? So they, without even thinking, they took that risk and they just wanted to be with Krishna and serve him. So Krishna actually, that's why he's so touched, because he understands, wow, they don't care, even if they have to live outside in the forest, they don't care, they will do everything for me. So when Prabhupada says, your love will be shown by how you cooperate between each other, he's saying that this is very difficult for you. It will be very difficult, but if you manage and do it, you will please me a lot. So why is it so difficult? Because we live in the Kali Yuga. Kali literally means the age of quarrel. And why is it quarrel? Because everybody has his own false ego, thinking I know better, I am better, thinking I'm the supreme independent, I don't need you. Kali, one time I heard a devotee saying, a German devotee, Kali and the word Kail are verwandt, connected. Kail, you know what is a Kail? And Kail means, it's, like the Kail you put in the door, that's a Kail, isn't it?
Yes.
So to stop the door, you have a wooden piece which is thin in one and wider in the other end. And what you do, you separate. The Kail separates. For example, if you wanna, make firewood, you use a Kail. You go in a small spalt, crack maybe, and you put the thin part inside, and then you will hammer on it, and by the small, part you pushing it in, then it will separate. So Kali means to separate. And what is it that separates? The false ego. So that's why Prabhupada said, when you manage to cooperate between each other, you actually succeeded and you please me. And this we should always remember. And we can also look in outside, but even in our own society, how difficult it is for people and devotees to stay together. Be it in a small, unit, like in a couple or in a family, but then in a temple, it's not easy to Krishna Prema Prabhu said yesterday, we have to tolerate. That's the price we have to pay to live in Vaikuntha, in the temple. We have to tolerate the other devotees. Actually, we have to tolerate our own mind and ego. It's not that we shouldn't think they are the problem. We have to tolerate our own anarthas. And that's how the power will come in Kali Yuga. Prabhupada said, in the spiritual world, 1 + 1 is not 2, but how much?
1.
Oh no, sorry, that's another one. No, he said 1 + 1 is not 2, it's 11. And 1 + 1 + 1 is 111. That's how he emphasized that if you manage to stay together, it will multiply. The power will multiply. And this is something I want to just mention today. We should always remember that the most difficult thing, and at the same time the most rewarding thing, is if we manage to cooperate. And it starts on a very small scale by cooperating in a temple. We have to cooperate with all the other devotees, and they're simply going to the morning program. You have to cooperate. You could say, actually, I can chant my rounds better in my room, and I don't have to go to Mangalarti, it will only distract my mind, I better just... No, but you cooperate. You go down and you do it with the others. And there might be, that's the austerity, you have to tolerate. But in the long term, you will become stronger. And actually, the biggest problem we have is ahankar. That is also scientifically explained in Bhagavatam. Ahankar is the beginning point of material existence, and actually all we are is ahankar. In Bhagavatam it is described when ahankar mixes with the mode of goodness, the mind develops. When ahankar mixes with the mode of passion, intelligence and the senses develop. When ahankar mixes with the mode of ignorance, the elements manifest. So this is ahankar. When my body is ahankar in the mode of passion. So it's all ahankar but in a transformed way. So logically, if we want to go out of the material world, the main thing we have to give up is ahankar. And by cooperating in the association of the devotees, or in other words, by performing Sankirtan, by worshipping the Lord together with other devotees, that's how we give up ahankar. When you do Harinam Sankirtan, everybody who comes new in the beginning, your ahankar is so strong you don't even manage to put one step in front of the other. You feel so shy. If I'm gonna dance now, what will people think of me? It's ahankar. But then slowly you realize, actually, in this we are all equal. We are all servants. And nobody will judge. We just glorify the Lord. And then you slowly start to dance and you sing loudly without thinking, how will my voice sound? How will my movements look? Will the others, appreciate or not? Like this. And so this Sankirtan is a very scientific process. It will diminish our false ego more and more, and eventually we are fully free from ahankar, false ego, and then we can go back home. So that is what I wanted to say, that austerity can be performed in many ways and for many different goals, but we are bhakti yogis in the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sankirtan Yagya, and the main thing we have to do is to cooperate with other devotees, and in this way we can perform Sankirtan and worship the Lord. And by this, in Bhagavatam it is said, anyway, the Kali Yuga is an ocean of fault, but there is one good quality, that Kirtana Deva Krishnasya, by worshipping the Lord, one can attain perfection by liberating himself and going back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. Do you have any comments or questions?
Thank you. I want to ask about, there's always in the Vedas, there's this example given of the disciple bringing firewood to the spiritual master. And I just wanted to hear from you what you think, what does it actually mean? How can we interpret it nowadays, and how come, the fire, it's about, I think the analogy is basically like the spiritual master is performing yagya, so he needs the firewood, so the disciple brings the firewood. And then the disciple also gets the rewards, it's the tapa that burns away his ignorance, something like this, right?
To get the firewood?
Yeah, and because the menial service, but yeah, how would you explain it? Or why is it so much stressed? And, you can see it time and again. So, and also Krishna and, was it Balaram? The Brahman who afterwards came to Krishna. When they were at Yasho, Sudam, where they went to get firewood, right, for Sanipani.
But I think they just got firewood. I'm not sure if they got for initiation, because...
Yeah, no, in general, I think.
Traditionally firewood, now there was no gas, so they would create heat with firewood for cooking and all this. So I think in that case of Krishna and Sudama, they just collected firewood like this. But yeah, I think I once asked this question: what is the significance of collecting firewood? And the simple reply I got was, in order to receive initiation, they have to make yagya, and they need firewood. So basically, by bringing firewood, Vedic culture is very in the beginning, Vedic culture can appear to be, for the Western mind, maybe a little bit kritik, no? In a sense, I don't know if I have another example now, but yeah, for example, one thing I always found like a little strange when I heard, and then they took a blade of grass, a straw between their teeth, and they went to offer obeisance. I'm like, wow, this is super kitschy in a way. No, I would feel so embarrassed to do that. But the Vedic culture is so, I don't know, it's so nice, because they don't have this false ego, it will also appear very nice, like, wow, it takes. But when we do it, it will be very strange, because we have such a huge ahankar. So same thing you could say, the Guru, he just has some collection of firewood, and I just go and tell him, Guru Maharaj, I would like to take initiation. But now the culture is you bring the firewood. I'm speculating, I don't know, but I feel the whole gesture. I think there is a depth to it, and it's the call to collect the firewood. You're meditating about why you want to collect, what you're going to do.
I would say in our times it's same. If you give some donations to the Guru, you set fire is energy, but energy nowadays is money. With money you can do everything. With money you can buy whatever you need to eat. And if you want to please the Guru, you give him donations. Then he can continue his service also.
I just like this aspect of, you could give money, and we do, most of us, we give money when we take initiation. And for some, I guess some, they are not so conscious actually, they just go around quickly and give the money. It's like a ritualistic thing. It's nice, this traditional way, they collect firewood. That means they go out in the forest. It takes some time. That time you had to walk, there was no vehicle, so you bring it back. So it's a very sattvic, nice way how you also absorb your mind in going in that direction. So of course you are in a process of aspiring and wanting to take initiation. So what first came to my mind, what can you do to show your Guru Maharaj that you actually, no? Maybe you should do the same, Guru Maharaj, I
Brought some wood.
I just brought some.
You were starting as well. That you could work there.
Just to encourage you, where there is a will, there is a way. There's so many ways how we can show our Guru that we are eager. And he will reciprocate. Yes, Sankirtan, but because I know the background now of you wanting to take initiation. And sometimes, even with Prabhupada, there was a certain system how you can. It becomes difficult, but Krishna is powerful. He can remove all obstacles. But he's sometimes testing us as well. And if it takes a little longer, it's also no harm. The firewood doesn't get spoiled. Hare Krishna. Okay, then it's the 45. I would end here. Thank you for your attention. Have a nice day. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Damodar Prasad Dasa ki
Jai.
Ist auch so Ekadashi, haben wir das auch schon gemerkt, wenn man fast ist dann auch
Kari fast immer.
also einfach keine Grades.
Ja, das ist fast.
Das stimmt. Nein, wenn ich faste, was mir immer auffällt, das Feuerelement wird kontrollierter. Und ich sehe, meine Sicht wird besser, grobstofflich, und feinstoffliche Lust nimmt wirklich ab und ich sehe besser. Also feinstofflich. Als Beispiel jetzt, ich weiß nicht, was ich darf sagen, aber so Opposite Sex, man sieht einfach besser, was es eigentlich ist. Weil eben die Lust gibt.
Oder was er eben nicht ist.
Was es eben nicht ist. Ja, und das, also das finde ich so.
Es geht die Lust weg, weil einfach körperlich auch nicht mehr so geschwächt bist.
Du bist ja nicht geschwächt.
Ich schon, ich bin geschwächt nach dem Fasten. Also wenn ich nach dem Fasten Kirtan mache oder so.
Ja, gerade im Moment, ja.
Ja.
Aber das Fasten sollte ja auch anheben. Also wirklich beim Fasten hilft ja nicht nur da, solange du fastest. Das sollte ja auch weiterwirken, oder?
Du meinst, dass es einfach rein physikalische und dann
Ja.
auf den Mind sich überträgt, dass man gar keine Zeit und Energie hat, um.
Ja, ein Punkt ist ja sicher, oder? Man fastet und man macht den Pass ja auch, um den Sinn zu schwächen, oder? So den Sinn, also das Sinn weniger stark werden in dem Sinne.
Aber
Aber der geistige Mind wird dann geschärft.
Aber wie werden die Ziele kontrolliert und geschwächt? Das Feuerelement ist der springende Punkt. Physikalisch natürlich, wir wollen halt den Test für Krishna-Bewusstsein kultivieren, aber physikalisch, das ist halt in der Astrologie der Mars, wo die Sonne ist die Quelle von aller Energie und der Mars ist der, der die Energie verwaltet. Also sprich, von der Sonne kommst du die Energie über, aber der Mars tut es dann verteilen, so wie du es kannst verwenden. Und Sinn, vor allem die Working Senses, und Genitalien sind ja ein Teil der Working Senses, wird durch Feuer, vom Feuerelement, wie sagt man? Also, das Feuerelement ist das, was es zum Laufen bringt.
Also du musst aufpassen, dass du kannst dann auch eben zu wenig Energie haben und so. Also Balance ist mega, ja sicher, also eben wenn jetzt zum Beispiel mega fast ist und du hast eigentlich körperliche Aktivitäten hinterst dich da die auszuführen, oder?
Ja, klar. Das muss man schauen, wo man steht. Das ist auch etwas, was ich vorhin gedacht habe. Wenn wir unser Chart anschauen in der Astrologie, wir alle haben eine Sonne und wir alle haben einen Mars. Und so die Sonne, die äußerlich Quelle von aller Energie ist auch in uns drin als Seele. Das heisst, oder du siehst Spiritualisten, die fasten für Tage und sie sind nicht so, oder wenn wir fasten für einen halben Tag, werden wir schwach. Und warum?
Ja.
Weil sie sind connected mit der Sonne. Die sind nicht abhängig vom Mars, von dem, oder ich muss jetzt essen, oder ich muss trinken. Sogar Luft ist auch, was macht Luft? Oder wenn es Feuer ist und die Luft weg ist,
Ja.
dann nimmt das Feuer zu. Also wenn ich schnaufe, das Feuer nimmt zu.
Ja, weil in der Luftpartikel ist immer auch die Energie von der Sonne auch drin. Oder?
Ist es wegen dem?
Ja.
Okay.
Braun ist ja auch, also Braun ist auch Lichtnahrung.
Ja.
Und das geht ja auch nicht Luft.
Ja, das geht, ja. Und der Sauerstoff ist der Träger von dieser Energie.
Das ist spannend. Das heisst eigentlich, die Luft, in der Luft hat es eben Sonnenenergie, die
ja, klar, ja.
die Feuer ist auch Sonnenenergie,
Ja.
einfach nur anfacht.
Es gibt nie eine Energie, ohne dass es mit Luft in Kontakt kommt, oder? Nur schon, wenn es zum Beispiel, wenn du vorhin schon Nacht und am Morgen nicht öffnest, die Energie kann nicht rein. Du musst mal schauen, wie die Luft nachher ist. Wenn du das Licht nicht reinlässt von der Sonne, dann hat es ganz eine andere Energie im Raum, als wenn du die Fenster öffnest oder da vorne öffnest. Licht, erstens reinigt und zweitens bringt es die Energie, oder? Und Pflanzen haben die Möglichkeit, die Energie rauszunehmen, oder? Wir ja nicht.
Von der Luft?
Ja, natürlich.
Also wir auch?
Ja, über Pflanzen. Ja, aber wir nur...
Aha, über Pflanzen, den Sauerstoff meinst du?
Nein, die Energie, die durch die Luft, also von der Sonne in die Luft und von der Luft in die Pflanze, von der Pflanze ins Tier und dann alles, was wir ernähren uns nur mit diesen Sachen, die haben eben die Möglichkeit, das aus der Luft rauszunehmen. Wir nicht. Wir können nicht. Die Energie können wir nicht. Wir können uns nicht ernähren nur mit Luft. Also, es gibt ganz wenige, die das
können. Wir ernähren uns ja mit Sauerstoff, der von den Pflanzen kommt.
Ja.
Und das ist ja, das wird auch da beschrieben, und das hört man auch bei Trauben, oder am Anfang essen sie weniger, trinken und irgendwann schnaufen sie nur noch. Und irgendwann hören sie auf schnaufen, das heisst, sie schaffen sie irgendwie die Energie,
direkt
viel stofflicher. Ja, und am Anfang aus der grobstofflichen, dann aus dem Wasser und irgendwann aus der Luft. Und irgendwann schaffen sie sogar das aufzugehen. Wenn du sagst, Pflanzen nehmen das aus der Luft, weil Pflanzen tun ja umwandeln, oder?
Ja, assimilieren heisst das, ja.
Und sie tun ja Sauerstoff ausgeben.
Und das können sie dann von Chlorophyll machen. Chlorophyll gibt ihnen die Möglichkeit, die Energie aus der Luft umzusetzen, oder? Chlorophyll. Darum sind Pflanzen grün, oder? Ja. Und die Pflanzen, die nicht grün sind, die müssen irgendwie einen Wirt haben, wo ihnen das gibt. Zum Beispiel Pilz, oder? Pilze leben von den abgestorbenen Pflanzen, wo die Energie ja schon drin haben. Beim Holz ist ja die Energie auch drin, oder? Und das Holz ist ja gemacht von der Pflanze.
Das heisst, der Pilz ernährt sich nicht so wie die anderen
Pflanzen. Nein, darum gilt er ja als Damodar.
Stimmt, ja.
Weil er vom Abgestorbenen sich ernährt, oder? Und nicht von etwas Lebendem, oder? Pilz gibt es nur auf dem toten Material, oder? Also, wenn die Pflanze krank ist, kann es ja auch Pilz geben, aber das ist ja dann auch schon ein Zeichen, dass sie so schwach ist, oder?
Und gleich, der Pilz ist das ultimative so Kommunikation in der Erde, oder? Die Energie, die ganzen Pilznetzwerke, die kommunizieren durch den Pilzbäume, zum Beispiel die Natur und so, durch das Pilznetzwerk.
Ja, also ist wieder ein anderer Faktor, ja.
Ja.
Weil das mit Ziel verbreitet ist über den ganzen Wald, oder? Das sind dann wie Nerven. Ja.
Schon spannend, ne? Ich finde
das spannend.
Aber ich finde es vor allem verrückt, wie wenn man durch Sankhya das anschaut. Und Sankhya ist ja wirklich, du hast eigentlich, glaube 24 Elemente. Dann wird alles so klar. Oder? Und die Wissenschaftler, die zerbrechen alles in so viele Teile und so, die kommen nicht mehr draus.
Ja. Wir sind das Prinzip aber nicht verstanden. Aber das sagst du nur, wenn du einen Schöpfer glaubst.
Ja, sonst schlägt das ja nicht zu.
Ja.
In Bhagavad Gita sagt der Krishna, Maya Paritagya. Super gescheit, aber Krishna, Maya, kannst alles wissen, aber Maya tut die einfach bedecken, dass du nicht siehst, um was es eigentlich geht.
Und darum geht bei allem, was sie machen, der Schutz hinein. Bei allem.
Ja.
Restlos. Wenn immer sie etwas Neues erfinden, hat es so viele Nachteile, dass es eigentlich wieder den Vorteil aufhebt. Oder? Ja, ist wahr.
Ja, ist so, ja. Hast du verstanden? Bisschen. Ja, ich weiß nicht. Ja, was soll ich jetzt?
Nein, ich meine nur,
der Englisch.
Also Yoga.
Also machen wir weiter.
Wir gehen jetzt ein bisschen als Vier aufwärts.